Now, often the dark times in our lives, we think that God has abandoned us. We think God's promise have failed. We think God's word is unreliable, but that is just the lie of Satan, who wants to disrupt our relationship with God and our trust in Him. So the truth is that when we encounter God in those dark and lonely times in life, we find that His word never fails and that He never changes. His promises and plans may not occur when we expect or how we expect, but we are still the same. Our lives may take a twist and turns that we find dark and depressing times, but He remains faithful. Sabi nga sa Hebrews chapter 13, verse 8, He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So sa makatwid, magbago-bago man ang sirkumstansya ng buhay mo, ngayon ay nasa ibaba ka man, nasa gitna ka man, nasa taas ka man, God will never change. Okay? Ganun pa rin ang Panginoon. The last one. Sa kadiliman ng ating buhay ay madalas na ipinahayag sa atin ng Diyos ang Kanyang provision. Ito yung huling bahagi nating makikita. God often revealed to us His provision. Look at verse 15. Sabi diyan, tandaan mo, subaybayan kita at ipagtanggol saan ka man magpunta. At ibabalik kita sa lupaing ito, hindi kita iiwan hanggang sa matupad ang lahat ng sinabi ko sa iyo. Wow! Dito sa puntong ito, ang nakita ko lang na idea is God's provision. Okay? Nandito ho yung very important promises or from provision ng Panginoon. Ano bang importante dito? Sabi dito sa ating talata, unang-una nating makikita that God will unilaterally and unconditionally provide for Jacob. Okay? Sa makatwid, ipoprovide ko sa iyo ang mga bagay na ito unconditional. So minsan kasi ganito ho yun, tutulong ka sa isang tao pero ganitong condition. Pero ang Diyos ganito ho tutulungan kita na walang condition. Di ho ba? Most often we transact. We make transaction and most transaction there is always a condition. Okay, right? Maraming if. Di ho ba? But dito sa puntong ito, you will realize kung gaano po katapat ang Diyos when He promised you with His provision. Sabi po sa ating talata dito malinaw. Sabi niya, okay, God unilaterally and unconditionally provide for Jacob. God will provide for Jacob's need for companionship. Sabi niya, I am with you. Di ba provision yun na mayroon kang makakasama? Sino bang kasama ni Jacob dito sa oras na ito? Wala. Walang nagdala sa kanya, walang nagyaya sa kanya dito. This is a forsaken place. Okay? Pero unang pinapangako ng Panginoon, I am with you. Kung ang pamilya mo ay hindi ka sinasamahan sa oras na ito, I am with you. Okay? God will provide for Jacob needs for protection. Anong sabi niya? I will keep you wherever you go. Iingatan kita saan ka man mapunta. Even though no one else cares about you. Okay? Iingatan kita. Pangatlo, God will provide for Jacob's guidance. Anong sabi niya? I will bring you back to this land. Okay? Gaano ka man kalayo itatapon nila. Okay? I will bring you back to this land. And God will provide for Jacob's comfort. Sabi niya, I will not leave you. Okay? I will not leave you. Hindi kita pababayaan. Yan ang mga kapatid sa pananampalataya. Kung minamaliit, binababa ka man, tinatakwil ka ng iyong pamilya, sabi ni Jacob, I will not leave you. And finally, sabi niya, until I have done what I have promised to you. Kailan si-separate ang Panginoon? When everything will be completely fulfilled. God never leave Jacob unless everything will happen. Di ba? Ito yung pinakamatamis na salita na binabanggit ng Panginoon. At ito yung pinakamatamis na salita na naririnig ni Jacob sa kadiliman ng kanyang buhay. Di ba? Though he felt totally abandoned and alone, God brought him comfort. Okay? Though his mother and father were not with him, God was with him. Nothing can happen to Jacob until God has fulfilled his promises through his divine provision. And we will close here. Ano yung una? When we were forsaken, we often flee into darkness of rejection. In the darkness of rejection, we see light of God's world, God's revelation, and finally, the light of God's revelation bring us to ultimate realization. Ito po yung makikita natin. Ang liwanag ho ng kahayagan ng Panginoon ay magpatanto sa atin sa lahat ng mga bagay. If you look at chapter 28, verse 16 to 22, Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, "Surely the Lord is in this place. I did not know it." Okay? I did not know it. First, natin makikita dito, may tinatawag nating realization. Okay? First, we realize we are in the presence of God. Okay? Napagtanto natin na tayo ay nasa presensya ng Diyos. Naggising si Jacob at ang sabi, hindi ko alam na narito pala si Yahweh. Sa puntong ito, this is the great discovery. Okay? God was present here. He was not just present in a dream, but He was present in this place. Di ba? Jacob had just met God. He thought he was alone in a forsaken, deserted, isolate place, but he was wrong. He discovered that God was here. He is shocked to discover God's presence when he thought he was alone. Just as Isaac was shocked to discover Jacob's presence when he thought he was alone with Esau. We often discover God's place when we least expected it. Okay? We often discover God in a places we least expected it. Okay? Minsan makikita natin na-encounter natin ang Panginoon, pero hindi ko in-expect na dito ko ma-encounter ang Panginoon sa lugar na ito. Kaya minsan may mga kaibigan tayo na na-meet natin sa lugar na you do not expect na nandoon sila. What is your experience? Magulat ka. Okay. Pero ganito minsan, dinadala tayo ng Panginoon, kadalasang nangyayari, nami-meet natin ang Panginoon doon sa lugar na hindi natin minsan iniisip na nandoon. Di ho ba? Pero ang ganda ho nating makikita. Okay? So, madalas pong na-encounter sa personal kong buhay that when I did not expect, okay, may mga unexpected circumstances, you will find God. And ito po yung kagandahan. When you experience unexpected circumstances, okay, maybe like for example, forsaken place or anywhere else, natin makikita what we are going to do is be still and know that He is God. Okay? So, dito ho, the light of God's revelation brings to ultimate realization, and we realize we are in the presence of God. Second, natin makikita dito, in light of God's revelation, we realize that we are in the presence of God and we realize we need to worship God. So, kung makikita natin yung kahayagan ng Panginoon sa buhay natin, then we must realize that we need to worship. We need to worship God. Okay? Early in the morning, Jacob took the stone that he had put under his head and set it up for a pillar and poured oil on the top of it. Ano yun? Yung kanyang batong inuunan niya ay ginagawa niyang monumento. Okay, statue. A pillow becomes a pillar of God. At dito ho, makita natin yung katotohanan. Pag mayroon kang pananampalataya, there is an action of your faith. Jacob now has faith in God, and his faith expressed by his action. Yung ginawa niyang monumento itong bato na ito. Monument would be a permanent reminder of his discovery, both for him and for those who came behind him. In verse 19, he called the name that place Bethel, but the name of the place was Lost. Lost at first. Okay? So yung dating pangalan niya ay Lost, ngayon, ang pangalan ay Bethel. Ang ibig sabihin ng Bethel means the house of God. Okay? Dati, ang pangalan niya ay Los, meaning a place of refuge. And you know,